Neely Fuller Jr., good morning, sir. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
And we love to hear that. Every time you speak to Neely Fuller Jr., you always tell us you're still learning. Well, we need you to step into the classroom and help us out here. Brother Siddiqui was reporting the fact that the NAACP convention is taking place in Boston, and it's sort of sidestepping the black community. And again, the money going downtown to where the rich folks are, and as he pointed out, then they're going to get rich and they continue to oppress us, and then their children oppress us, and the cycle continues. But many of us don't see that. What is it going to take for our people to understand that they have a code, and that we need a code of our own?
Well, a code has proven what we think of as a code is doing something that works. Every time you do it, it works. That's something that black people do not have. We don't have anything similar to that. The white supremacists of this world are successful because any move that they make, when they get up in the morning and they say that, well, for one thing, I'm a white person, and if I believe in white supremacy, I have to be able to have a code for that. And that's what somebody thought of a long time ago. Black people need a counter-racist code, meaning whatever's opposed to us doing something of constructive value should be codified. I use the expression codify everything, every move you make, everything that you ever intend to do. Start codifying it right now. In other words, say that every move that I make is going to produce I would say one thing in two words: constructive results. And the people who are going to have whatever kind of meeting they're going to have, they come in with one idea. Look, every moment that we spend here is going to be about producing constructive results. If we leave here without any kind of plan that's guaranteed to produce constructive results, then we were just having a jubilee type thing, a banjo type thing, basically entertainment, abstract entertainment, where all black entertainment should produce constructive results. Every time a black person opens his or her mouth to say anything, it should produce a constructive result. Otherwise, it's best not to say nothing, which that will produce a constructive result until you find something to say. But just laughing and backslapping and dropping names and talking about hallelujah time, jubilee time, that's not producing constructive results, unless it is producing constructive results. But you have to say, what can you pinpoint actually what this move that we made today, this thing that was discussed today, did it indeed produce a constructive result? And if it did, what was it? Show it to me. Otherwise, this is all wasted time and energy, which is a no-no. That should be a universal no-no for all people on the planet, and particularly black people.
So let me jump in and ask you this.
Every day should be codified to produce a constructive result.
So if we're having not just a convention like the NAACP is having, if you're having a party, you're having friends over, does it go for? When you say having, every time we meet, is the goal is to have a constructive result? Is that what you're teaching us this morning?
That's what I'm talking about as suggestion for a part of a code. The white supremacists have a precision code. They're not. They don't sit around just making cute talk and everybody laughing and picking up their heels. Now they'll do a little of that too, but they keep focus on. Wait a minute. Time is passing. That clock is ticking. We are supposed to be, in every move that we make, if we're going to stay in domination of these wild, dark-skinned people, we have to have a plan for every one of our minutes on this planet. And each one of those plans better be able to show a constructive result. We don't waste time like they do, because we have trained them to be great time wasters, doing a whole lot of nothing and trying to look cute doing it. We're not like that. We're scientific. And so
how do we convince our people to do that, Mr. Fuller?
By saying it and saying you're not participating in anything that's not going to produce a constructive result. And when you come away from any kind of 2-hour meeting, by any means, you ask the question, what was the constructive result of that 2-hour meeting? Not a week long or 3 days or whatever it is, just 10 minutes. I'm spending 10 minutes talking on the phone. When you cut off that communication, like everybody's got a cell phone, when that conversation is complete, that's what I mean by code. You ask yourself, what was the constructive result of that 10-minute conversation I just had? And you can't point to the constructive result. Do your very best not to have that type of conversation ever again. We should be just that tight, even with our words, our conversations. We don't call people up just to say, hey, what you doing? That should stop. If you're asking what you're doing, you're supposed to get some type of answer about something that you have learned that you can use or help somebody else use that is going to produce. I'm going to keep saying these two words over and over again because that's what we need. Constructive results. Not just a whole lot of activity. We have plenty of that. Black people are very active people. But how many constructive results that we produce each day? At the end of each day, we just show a long, long list of things with each day that passes that all produce constructive results, 100%. Don't do anything, don't participate in anything that is non-constructive. That's the first thing you want to know from anybody. What's going to be the constructive result? You want to know that before you get involved at all. So when you're having a meeting, what's going to be the constructive result of that meeting? Oh, we just get together. No more of that get together nonsense. Get together. We were together on the slave ship, just getting together just to be getting together. No. What's the constructive result of us getting together? What do you mean by that? You can't even describe it. That's a phrase that we use over and over again, decade after decade. What we got to do is get together. No. Stay apart from each other until you come up with some plan that's going to work, guaranteed. And when you
hold that thought right there, Mr. Fuller. We got to take a quick break here, and we got some folks already got questions for you. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. He's in our classroom this morning, family. You got a question for him? Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your phone calls in 6 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. In the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And good morning again, family. 21 minutes after the top of the hour, one of our top scholars with us this morning, Neely Fuller Jr., is going to expound on his tome on racism, white supremacy. And you've got to listen very, very keenly to when Neely Fuller speaks, because he uses logic, cause and effect. And if you didn't get the concept right away, don't be bashful. Don't be frustrated either, because I tell you, it happened to me when I first heard Dr. Wilson talk about it. I had to ask her to explain it to me. He could break it down. But the more you listen, the more you understand. All of a sudden, it'll hit you and go, wow, this is what the system of racism and white supremacy means. As he mentions, that if you don't understand how it works, that's how that system works, then everything else that you think you understand only stands to confuse you. But remember, I told you we got some folks who got questions for Neely Fuller Jr. So let's go to Cleveland. Austin's on line 2. Austin, your question for Neely Fuller Jr. I don't think Austin's ready for us. Let's move on, Kevin. Let's go to line 1. Raw's in Houston. Raw, your question for Neely Fuller Jr. Is Raw there? Those folks are not ready for prime time. All right. Well, he's not answering, so we'll just move on. So Neely Fuller, you're telling us that whenever we get together, we have to have a purpose. Is this for us only as black people or everybody of color? How does that work?
Well, just each individual, that's how it works. Like myself right now, I ask myself all day long, hey, Neely Fuller, you talk to yourself first. What are you doing right this minute? And what's going to be the constructive result of what you're doing right this minute? Now, every person on the planet, not only black people, should ask themselves that. What are you doing right this minute? And what's going to be the constructive result of what you're doing right this minute? And if you can't come up with an answer that's yes, I am doing something of constructive value right this minute, then that means you're off course. The codification is basically simple. You're either doing something constructive or you're not. And so you're given something called time and energy when you're born. Every fraction of a second of that time and energy, if you're going to be true to whatever it is that created you, every second of the time and energy that you have been given, because it is a gift, each and every person should use that time and energy, because a second is time and energy if you're using it. It's given to you to produce a constructive result. You haven't earned it. So you earn it, paying it forward, by seeing to it that you have a code. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to be involved in anything. I'm not going to be involved in a conversation that doesn't produce a constructive result. Now, suppose every person on the planet, particularly black people, would adopt that code right this minute, because that's exactly what I'm trying to get people to do, and I'm trying to do it myself. I've never achieved it. But I'm supposed to be doing everything that I possibly can, like right this minute. Am I producing a constructive result? Am I trying to build something up or tear something down other than that which should be built up and or that should be torn down, like the system of racism, and replaced with justice? Am I contributing to that right this minute? I have to ask myself that. Suppose that was our code. Constructive results. If you talk to a black person, we should be able to say that by this evening, all over the world. White people will be saying it all over the world. That's what I envision right now, right this minute. That by 5 o'clock this evening, black people all over the world have adopted a code that says, I'm not going to be involved in anything, not for 3 seconds, that doesn't produce constructive results. I'm all about constructive results. I don't have time for anything else. I don't have energy for anything else. I have too many things that I'm supposed to use my time and energy doing that will produce constructive results, because there's plenty that's being done that's non-constructive. And I'm not being a part of it. To the best of my ability, with whatever circumstances I have, be they ever so humble. Suppose every black person had that swimming in his head or her head right this minute, everywhere on the planet. I'm not wasting not one more second being involved in stupidity. If you come to me with something stupid, I don't want to see you no more until you come up with something that's not stupid. I'm not mad at you, but I'll be mad at myself if I join up with any kind of stupid conversation. I'm not being a part of that. I don't have that kind of time and energy. No more. That's out the window as of this minute. Suppose every black person took that as their code right this minute. It's not a long, drawn-out process. Just say you're not going to be involved in anything that doesn't make sense. We have a reputation for just being giddy about doing everything that you can think of that's stupid. That's the kind of reputation black people have. Enjoy being stupid, doing stupid things, having meetings where everybody just tries to do something stupid. That's the kind of reputation we have, thanks to the white supremacists. They keep pushing it. But we can just make up our minds right this minute. We're going to codify it. And the main part of the code is no black person is going to have a reputation for doing stuff that's stupid. When you see a black person coming, it'll almost be like just automatic. Your mind says, here comes a problem solver. They're not about making problems. They were that way yesterday, but they're not that way today, and they don't intend to be that way ever again. We can do that right this second. We don't have to have a long, drawn-out meeting to discuss that. Just say, I'm not even having a stupid conversation with nobody, no more. I'm just hanging out and making stupid conversation. I'm not being a part of that. If you don't have anything constructive to say.
And let me jump in here, Mr. Fuller. That means that you have to cut some people off, right?
Well, no, you haven't. No, the code says that. You can't do that, okay? But you let them know. Now, we're going to talk about something stupid because I'm not going to be a part of it. So let me know right now. And I ain't mad at you. I think it's Mr. Travis Mallard that coined that phrase and made it popular, rather. But that's the way to present it. That's the codified way. You're not angry with anybody, not trying to be angry, not trying to start a fight. We got plenty of fights already started. But you just let white people know and black people know. I don't intend to be for 5 minutes a part of anything that's stupid. No kind of foolishness at all. I don't have the time and energy. I have to use every fraction of a second doing something to solve a problem and enjoying it. See, we think if we're problem solving, that's taking all the fun out of life. We got to be making problems and then cry about the problems that are made. That's the kind of logic that the white supremacists teach black people. And we have embraced it hook, line, and sinker. And all we have to do is dump it right this minute.
Yeah, hold that thought right there. I got a tweet question for you, and Austin is back on the line. But the tweeter, Gail, says, Mr. Fuller, why do we keep attacking one another but carry the white man's water with no problem? Folks will attack one another but won't challenge the white man. This is from Gail.
Well, if you're talking about the white supremacists, we're supposed to be using codified language, so we're not talking about all white people. And see, we changed the language. We just don't say white man. We say white supremacist. That's a special type of white person. A very, very shrewd type of white person who has evil intent and carries out that intent in a codified, successful manner. That's what white supremacy is. It's not only codified, it's successful. The most successful enterprise among the people of the planet Earth in 2023. Nothing is more successful than the system of white supremacy when it comes to political and religious success. There's no religion stronger than the system of white supremacy. None. All of them put together don't even come anywhere close. Yes, white supremacy is a religion, because what's a religion? A strong belief backed up by action. Nobody practices what they preach among themselves like the white supremacists, and right to the letter. That's why they are successful at what they do. And everybody else caters to them. All over the world, black people are saying, which way did the white people go? Because when we catch up with them, that's when things start making sense. Even though they whip us and beat us and kill us, we're better off with them than we are among ourselves. And we prove that every day. Which way did the white people go? Babies in our arms, trying to get across what? Borders. What do the borders say? Stay away from me until I send for you, boy and gal, because you don't know what to do when you are alone with yourselves except kill each other and curse each other out. You see, you're walking down the street with a cell phone, cursing. Who are you talking to? Some white person? No, you're talking to somebody that looks just like you. Because you can't stand yourself and you can't stand anything that looks like you. Why? Because I train you that way. That's why. Right. You are very carefully trained and don't even know
hold
that
thought right there, Mr. Fuller. We got to take another quick break here. When we come back, I'll let you finish on that. We got some more folks want to talk to you, but the question is sort of, you raised the question in your statement with Gail's comment or question for you. Are all white people white supremacists? So I want you to respond to that part that you said. We shouldn't use white people, they're white supremacists. So that begs the question, are all white people white supremacists? I'll let you respond to that after we get the latest news, traffic, and weather in our different cities. Hey, folks, call up a couple of your friends and tell them Neely Fuller Jr. is on the radio. They'll thank you, and we'll be back in 4 minutes at 26 away from the top. They are right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. Also in the DMV on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And good morning again, family. Thanks for rolling with us this morning. 19 minutes away from the top of the hour. Neely Fuller Jr. is in our classroom this morning. You got a question? Raise your hand by dialing us up at 800-450-7876. Just want to remind you, tomorrow is Friday. We'll give you another chance to free your mind and think for yourself and reach out to us. Another edition of Open Phone Friday. The program begins promptly at 6 a.m. Eastern Time in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB, also in the DMV on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. And please don't wait for the last minute. A lot of folks every week, there's a lot of people who couldn't get in because they wait for the last minute to call in. But anyway, let's go back to Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, the tweet from Gail, and I'll read the tweet again. She said, Mr. Fuller, why do we keep attacking one another but carry the white man's water with no problem? Folks will attack one another but won't challenge the white man. And you said we should change that to white supremacy. So my question to you is, are all white people white supremacists?
Not according to logic, because that's what we're all supposed to be following. The white supremacists understand logic. That's why they are successful. And the answer to the question, logically speaking, I wouldn't say that all white people are white supremacists. White supremacists are white supremacists, but you have to be white first to be that. Now, it's not logical to say that all white people are white supremacists because there are babies being born that are white. They have to be taught. They have to be taught, first of all, the difference between the colors. If you don't know one color from another, you cannot be a white supremacist. So it's logical to assume, based on logic, that all white people couldn't be racist because white babies are born and they are not racist when they're born. I don't see any evidence of that, of anybody who doesn't know one color from another being a racist. And that would be the same way with a white person who has been here, say, 70 or 80 years on the planet. And that white person that said, I am a racist, I believe in white supremacy. But then in a nursing home, that person might be in a stage of what you call dementia or Alzheimer's, and the person doesn't know one color from another, doesn't know a spoon from a fork, and has a black person wheeling them up and down the hall all day. And this person might have been known worldwide as the most racist person on the planet. But the person now has reached a stage where they are not racist anymore. So in answer to the question, I couldn't say with any degree of logical credibility that all white people are racist. But those who are. And they are the biggest and most efficient troublemakers in recorded history on the planet here in 2023 by the admission of some of them themselves, because they enjoy mistreating people. What do you get out of being a white supremacist? You get three things that everybody wants in one form or another. And the white supremacists get enjoyment out of being white supremacists because it provides all three of the things that everybody wants: fun, glory, and material comfort. All creatures want those three things 24/7. Every creature on the planet. Crocodiles want it. Fish want it. Turtles want it. Birds want it. Fun, glory, and material comfort. And the white supremacists want the same thing. And they get it by practicing white supremacy according to a code. Black people want the same thing. But our minds are scattered all over the place. So we have learned, picking it up from the white supremacists, to enjoy killing. And so the young black person in the Northwestern Hemisphere will sit around with a firearm or two in his belt, strapped around his leg. It's usually a male. And he's thinking about killing some other black person. That's why he's got all this armament. That's what he woke up in the morning thinking about. And he learned it from the white supremacists. That's where that comes from. They are our greatest teachers. Oh, no, man, I'm doing this on my own. No, you're not. You didn't know nothing about a 9mm Hitler's cartridge. 9mm Luger. And everybody got an idea of what Hitler thought about black people. And black people are carrying out Hitler's work every day. 9mm Luger cartridge, very popular. Every black person out here who calls himself a gangster wants one, so he can do what Hitler said should be done with all these surplus people, particularly all the black people. Who cares? They don't care anything about each other. Why should a white person care? And that's true in 2023. Not just 1943 or 1936. Adolf Hitler's work is being carried on. He's very pleased in the grave. What's left of it? My work goes on and on and on. He can say that, and with total credibility. We need to just stop it. Stop and think about what we're doing for fun, for glory, and for material comfort. Because that's how a lot of us get it. Start thinking about doing anything and everything that does what? Produce constructive results for self and everybody else that we're in contact with. Get to be known. Black people should have in mind right now. I have it in mind right now. And I'm saying we should all have it in mind. Don't do anything that's non-constructive. Don't even think about it. I mean, say that that's past. That's all we have to do is make that decision. Hey, man, this thing that you're talking about doing, is it constructive? And if so, how? That's the way we should be talking now. Right now, right this minute. Everywhere. On the elevator, wherever you are. Sitting behind a desk. Driving a truck. That's code. We need a code where we automatically ask these questions. Hey, look, man, I mean, we've been talking for about 20 minutes. I mean, have we said anything constructive? Me and you. Otherwise, why are we talking? Well, I'll talk to you later. Because neither one of us can think of anything constructive to say. Hello?
All right. 10 away from the top of the hour. 800-450-7876. Speak to Neely Fuller Jr. We'll see if Austin's ready for us in Cleveland. Austin's online too. Austin, you have a question for Neely Fuller Jr.?
Yes, I most certainly do. Thank you so much for taking my call, and good morning, Mr. Fuller, to you as well. I had a question for you regarding the state of affairs of the world. So despite all the chaos and the confusion and all the murders and the killings that's going on out here, and, of course, the ultimate goal, objective above and beyond all else is to replace white supremacy with justice all over the world. If the system doesn't get replaced, how is one able to find peace in what they call life?
Now the question is what now?
With all the killings and the deception in the world, if one is to find peace in life, how is that possible if white supremacy isn't replaced with justice?
By us talking, just like we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And then carrying out the talk. Mm-hmm. Like I'm saying, I've been saying all morning so far. Don't have non-constructive conversations. Just that alone. We need to just start doing basics. And so we ask ourselves right this minute, are we having constructive conversations or not? And if the answer is no, when you examine everything that I'm saying and all like that, Fuller, get off of this radio station and never go on another one. until you figure out something constructive to say. I mean, we take no prisoners with this. We got to be serious people about serious things. The white supremacists don't want black people to be serious about anything except something stupid. Black people, according to the white supremacists, are supposed to be serious about silly things and silly about everything that's serious. And we just about do that every minute of the day if we can. Just try to be as stupid as we possibly can be and do stupid stuff and have stupid conversations that are not solving any problems at all. No intention of solving problems, just intentions of making them and enjoying making them and then crying about the problems that we made. That's how we've been trained by our trainers.
And hold that thought right there, Mr. Fuller.
Supremacists.
Yeah, hold that thought right there, because you just about summed it up. We got to take a quick break here and check the latest traffic and weather for our community this morning at 4 minutes away, 6 minutes actually away from the top of the hour. But we'll be back in 4 minutes. You got a question for Neely Fuller Jr. And folks, you got to listen real keenly because he uses logic, as he mentioned, cause and effect to prove his point. So, don't get frustrated if you don't get to understand the concept of racism, white supremacy off the bat. But we'll be back in 4 minutes in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB, also in the DMV on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information. Great discussions this morning, a minute after the top of the hour, with Neely Fuller Jr., one of our top scholars. He's teaching us about the system of racism, white supremacy. And again, I can't emphasize the fact that you've got to listen very, very keenly to how he explains how the system works. He uses logic, cause and effect to prove his points. All right, let's take some more calls from Ra is on line one, calling from Houston. Ra, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Greetings, Neely Fuller and Mr. Carl Nelson. Neely Fuller Jr., from your observation, what group of people are more insane, white or non-white people?
The question is what? Sometimes I don't understand the question.
Ra, can you repeat the question? I didn't get it either.
Yeah.
What was the question?
From your observation, what group of people are more insane, white people or non-white people?
All right.
More what?
Insane.
Insane?
Yeah.
We're all insane. You can't have a system. You can't have a system mistreating people of any kind unless you call it. If you're going to be truthful, and you always start with the truth, even when it hurts. Insane. The people of this planet, every time they do something that shouldn't be done, that's the definition of insanity. Racism is the most poisonous form of insanity in recorded history. And everything in it becomes poison in that system. All of the people who are subject to it, the people who practice racism, and the people who are victims of it, in answer to your question, according to logic and evidence, are just as insane as we can be. So that we are in an insane world, period. There's nobody who's not crazy. None. No exceptions. Just as crazy as we can be. In what areas of activity, according to the evidence? Economics. What is economics? How we use our time and energy. For one thing, we glorify killing. The books on the shelves are glorifying killing. Turn on the television right now, right this minute, wherever you are. and you'll see killing, one person killing another, and being glorified. It's called adventures, detective stories, cops and robbers, murder, 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 murder. Black people and white people. Murder is glorified. You get medals for killing people. Killing something that you can't create, but you kill it. You can't create it. You can reproduce it, but you can't create it. But you enjoy killing it. And paying money, big, thick books, and filling up all the shelves in the bookstores. Sherlock Holmes. This type of adventure, they call it. And it's all about killing people. Civil wars, like there's any such thing as a war to civilize. This is crazy as we can be. Call a war civilized, a civil war, and have reenactments of wars that, that were fought, that all of this type of nonsense. And we say that this is sanity. Bragging about it. And the white supremacists more than anybody. Putting out this type of poison. Yes, in answer to the question, we're all insane. And the white supremacists are most insane of all people. Those white people who believe in and practice white supremacy are insane. And they have very carefully trained everybody else to be insane, copying after them. That's why it should be replaced with a system of justice, which means what? Logically speaking, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And in all of these areas of activity, the people of this planet, in one degree or another, is just as insane as we can possibly get. Thanks more than anybody to the white supremacists, those white people who believe in mistreating people based on color. They're the greatest poison that the world has ever seen. And just as crazy as they can be and made of all the rest of us. So insane, we got no idea how insane we are.
All right, let's keep moving. Neely Fuller Jr., 7 minutes after the top. Let's go to Baltimore City. Marvin's waiting for us on line 3. Marvin, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes. Hold on, Carl. Yeah. What I want to say, Carl, is I can't pronounce his name that great, so I want to just call him Sir. But what I want to say, Carl, is the first time I heard him, Carl, man, I was mad. I was seriously mad about what he was saying. Because, see, I didn't take the time out to actually truly listen. I was just hearing this and hearing that. And I felt kind of seriously mad about that. Second time I heard him, I started listening. But the third time, he woke me up. You understand what I'm saying? He woke me up. I respect that man. You can believe what I tell you, Carl. He's one person that we need to hear. People like him, man, is serious. What are you saying? That's the type of thing we need, man. Trust me, man, I could not take that because he was cutting it too raw. You know what I mean by raw? It was cutting it straight to the point. It was hitting me so hard, I couldn't accept it. But I sure accept him now. And you can believe that anywhere. I see y'all, man.
Thanks, Marvin. And that's why I tell folks you got to listen real keenly. You know, people listen once and they just sort of be dismissive, but you keep listening until you and listen keenly, you'll understand what Neely Fuller is trying to say. Well, that's what Marvin said. All of a sudden now he figured it out, and that happens to most of us. First time we hear it, it doesn't register, and you're kind of frustrated because what are they talking about? The system of racism, white supremacy. What is that? And then you keep listening again, and then you finally get it. And then the light just blows up, and you understand what's happening in this world. Anyway, let's take some more calls of Neely Fuller Jr., 9 after the top there. Calvin, I think, is in North Carolina on line 2. Calvin, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Yeah, first off, I just want to express deep, deep gratitude to Mr. Neely Fuller just for living his life in service of justice and for everything he's taught me. And it's a privilege to speak to you. I have 2 questions. My first question concerns your earlier point about constructive conversation. Well, both questions concern that. How do we define constructive conversation? And furthermore, how do we deal with community members who disagree on what constructive conversation is?
By finding out. That's what I try to do. I always say I'm still learning. Nobody knows what they should know. With the world messed up like it is, the whole entire world. See, we're talking about a world thing. And the white supremacists are trying to extend it into other worlds. They want to get in rocket ships and all like that and take all this garbage somewhere else. I mean, we haven't straightened out nothing here. And the evidence shows that. I'm one of the dumbest people on the planet. That's how I learned all this, by being knocked in the head. I mean, it hit me over the head with it. You talking about stupid, I consider myself as being one of the outstanding when it comes to that. Myself, start with myself. See, because in order to learn, you first got to admit that you don't know. And you admit that first to yourself. You don't know near what you ought to know. So I just started asking questions. People are remarking something about Neely Fuller. There's nothing unique about me. I'm one of the dumbest people you'll ever encounter. And so that's why I always say I adopted that as a slogan. I'm still learning. I'm a beginner. Compared to what? Compared to all the things I need to know and understand. I'm so backward. Hey, I can win an award for being backward. And you're talking about Neely Fuller, Jr. You got to laugh. I'm just as backward as anybody can get. That's the way I see myself. But how do you move forward? By knowing how backward you are. Otherwise, you're not going to do nothing but stay just right where you are or get worse. And I'm screaming and yelling, saying, hey, don't start drowning like me. Help me up. And part of the code is, when somebody wants to tell me, when somebody criticizes me, give me more. Because I want to know what all my faults are. Because I probably can't see them. That's how I learn. Logic. The thing that black people are taught not to do is be logical. Logic came with the universe. Whatever created me created logic. So if you want to find out what needs to be done, don't follow Neely Fuller. Don't follow any person, because people make mistakes. Logic is mistake-proof. These are the laws that govern the entire universe. And once you just dip your little finger into that, you've got it all. And I had to discover that. Don't worship anybody walking the face of this earth or any other planet. Don't get caught up in any personalities. These are people. People are mistake-prone, all of us. So if you follow a person, you'll make the same mistakes that person is making. And people who followed Jim Jones down in Guyana found that out too late. You can get intoxicated with a person. That's a huge mistake. I don't care what kind of person it is or how many other followers they have. That person is loaded with mistakes. And that's been proven. On the kind of Neely Fuller said it, no. Put it to a test.
All right. And hold that thought right there, Neely Fuller. We got to take a quick break. And Calvis, I thank you for your call from North Carolina. When you come back, though, because you mentioned questions to Calvis, is your response about asking questions. A lot of folks don't do that. We just accept what people tell us. So if you can expound on that, I'd appreciate it. Folks, as I mentioned, we got to get caught up on the latest traffic and weather for our commuters this morning. You want to speak to Neely Fuller Jr., dial us up at 800-450-7876. Your phone calls in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. In the DMV on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And good morning again, family. 21 minutes after the top of the hour, Neely Fuller Jr., one of our top scholars, and I'm glad he mentioned that about following people. You know, so many of us in our community have a propensity to look for people without even, as Dr. John Henry Clark mentioned this, we're always following something without studying its origins. So, Neely Fuller Jr., if you can expound on the fact that we should always ask questions, because many of us don't do that. We just, regurgitate whatever this person has told us and believe it. So can you expound on that, why we should ask questions?
The reason people should ask questions is to learn. All problems, and there's no exception to this universal law, all problems, without exception, are solved through the process of questions and answers. How many questions and answers? As many as it takes to solve the problem. That's the answer. And it might take 1,000 questions. Black people are trained not to ask any questions. We're trained to walk around with our chest stuck out like we know everything. Black males particularly, and a growing number of black females. The white supremacists teach us to worship being dumb. And we have learned how to do that very well. To worship stupidity. Actually worship it. Get angry if anybody tries to say anything that makes sense. Oh, man, you're too serious. Have a good time, man. Well, what's a good time? That's a question. What do you mean by good time? Oh, man, getting down with it. That's the way we answer questions. With abstract slogans that go nowhere. In answer to the question I was just asked, that's the procedure. Just keep asking questions. And like I have outlined in my book, that people can get by going to producejustice.com, there are 4 questions that apply to every situation. And a person should apply it to themselves first. And it has to do with a 4-letter word. And that 4-letter word is W-A-N-T, want. Every creature, every minute of the day on planet Earth wants something. Even if it's just a frog trying to get across the highway. The frog wants to do that. Wants to figure out a way to hop across that highway with all those heavy trucks going by at 75 miles an hour. But a frog wants to get to the other side because that's where the water is. And frogs, many of the species of frogs, like water. So that frog keeps seeing those moving objects and says, there's danger there. See, when you ask questions, even the frog asks questions. How do I get across that highway where the water is? I can function in the water. I can function on land, but I'd rather be in the water. How do I get across the highway? That's a frog asking a question. All creatures ask questions, seeking answers, because that's how you get answers. It's the law of the universe that when a person or a creature asks a question, the answer starts gravitating toward the source of the question. And I hope that's
Gotcha.
the correct answer to that question.
Yeah, I believe it. 25 at the top of the hour. Claude's in Baltimore on line 4. Claude, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, good morning, Neely Fuller Jr. I love being in your classroom. When I heard Claude Anderson talk about the cause and effect, and that's part of your plot as well, and I love it. And then me being an elderly person in my community, I always tell people, say, you need to know the cause and effect. And this is what we deal with in our lifetime, trying to manipulate through the system. But knowing what I know, I always throw it outside the box. I'm thinking we need to be filtered like water. When you filter like water, then we can go through a system where we can actually know what to do, the right thing for each other to try to get through this. Because we all in
Right. And Claude, do us a favor. Put in a question for him so he can respond.
Okay, about us being filtered. Should we be filtered like water in order to make it through the system? Okay?
Mr. Fuller, do you understand the question?
No, I thought it was a statement. So
Yeah.
Probably was.
All right. Thanks, Claude. We're going to move on
have a
because some other folks has questions for
Now,
Neely Fuller. Let's
there's
go
a
to
person-
Atlanta.
Yes, go ahead.
Let's go to Atlanta, Mr. Fuller. Rick's waiting for us on line 3. Rick, your question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I wanted to make a rebuttal to one of your points earlier. You said that all whites are white supremacists, and I wanted to argue that they were. You made 2 examples. You said a baby and an old white person. Well, we know that even a white baby in a hospital gets better health care treatment than a black baby. And we know even until their dying moment in a healthcare facility, an old white person gets better treatment. They're even buried in better cemeteries than we are. So I think we waste our time. We're not being constructive, to use your language, to start wasting our time sorting white people out between the good and the bad. That's not the tactic that's being used against us. And personally, I don't know of any white people good enough that we can put the label of a good white person on. So I don't have a question, but if he's willing to still learn, I wonder how he'll reply to that. Thank you. And I'll take my reply off the air.
Thanks, Rick. All righty. Thank you,
I'm still
Rick.
learning when I listen to you say that. See what I mean? That's what I mean by codification. I'm required to listen to you say what you just said, because no one has solved the race problem. So everything that I'm saying could be an error. But I ask people, put things to a test. Put everything to a test. So whatever you think, whatever you're saying now, sir, to me and the rest of the world, should be added to the discussion. And the discussion, like I always say, solving a problem, questions and answers. So now people can ask questions about what your answer was or what your rebuttal was or whatever that was. I'll have to ask questions about it. I never say that I really know the answers to how to solve the race problem. I'm speculating that we need a code, because I have learned from experience that people who have a code but getting anything done, usually get it done. Building a house or tearing down one, a certain procedure that you go about doing it in an orderly fashion or in a logical fashion. There's a logical sequence for everything. So that's what this program is about. The Carl Nelson Show is about questions and answers. So we raise any kind of question about anything and try to do what? As best we possibly can, come up with the correct answer to every question. Because the only answer that's really an answer, logically speaking, is an answer that's correct. A so-called answer that's not correct isn't an answer to that question. That's the logic. Follow the logic. Whatever created logic, whatever created me, Neely Fuller Jr., also created logic that goes with the Neely Fuller Jr. that was created. So whatever created me for a purpose. And it starts off with, why was Neely Fuller created? And what was that purpose? Because everything in the universe is about questions and answers. Even among what people would call the lowest creatures, the smallest insect, has a series of questions and answers. Why does that insect exist? That might be a question. So once we tap into that, into the logic of the universe, then things start making sense. I know it's done that for me. Anytime I stop being illogical and start going by how I feel at the moment, feelings change all the time. They're unreliable. You have to use science. And all science is what? Questions and answers. The Carl Nelson Show is scientific. Why? It consists of questions and answers, supposedly getting the correct answers to every question.
And hold that thought right there, Mr. Fuller, because we've got to take a short break here. We've got to check the traffic and weather in our different cities. But a question for you, and I'll let you think about this. You can respond when we get back. Can black people, can we alone dismantle white supremacy, or do we need the help of white folks to dismantle white supremacy? I'll let you respond to that when we get back, as we can take our last look at the news, traffic, and weather in our different cities. We'll be back in 4 minutes, though, at 27 away from the top of the hour with Neely Fuller Jr. right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB, also in the DMV on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. With us all morning long. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr., one of our senior scholars here, discussing racism, white supremacy, what it is, and how to deal with it, how to handle with it. Get back to him in a moment. Let me just remind you, coming up tomorrow is Friday, and then we'll give you another chance to free your mind, think for yourself. It's called an Open Phone Friday program. Begins promptly at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB. In the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. Don't wait till the last minute. You guys wait till the last minute to call in and to voice your choice. But anyway, before we left for the break, my question to Neely Fuller Jr. was, can black people by themselves dismantle white supremacy? Is that possible?
And the logical answer is no. One thing, even the words that I'm using right now, we have to talk. I didn't invent the words that I'm using. I've come up with what I call a word guide that people can get by going to producejustice.com. uh, in the system of white supremacy, but I'm using the language that they gave me. I didn't invent what they call the English language. I don't know who did, but I was told that that's the language I would use, and so I use that to interact with all people. This is how I'm able to get some things done. But there's a lot of things I don't know about, even the use of the language I have to have in order to talk to black people or white people about getting things done. And everybody wants things to get done of some type. Getting back to that word, that four-letter word again, want. And so anything that I want, I'm going to have to talk to white people about it. So in answer to the question, I can talk to black people, but those black people are going to have to, they're going to have to tell me something that they got from white people. And among the white people, either racist white people or non-racist, indirectly or directly, I'm going to be talking to the white supremacists. Why? Because they are in a supreme position. Nobody is as powerful on planet Earth in the year 2023, which is where we are now, as the white supremacists. They're the smartest and most powerful people on the planet. Now, that might cause more conversation, more questions and answers, and it should. And I should expect that. That's logical. But that's either true or false. Are the white supremacists the most powerful people on the planet in 2023? That's the question. The answer, according to the logic and the evidence that I have found, is yes. You want a straight-up answer? That's it. One word, yes. They're the smartest and most powerful. Those white people who have chosen to be white supremacists and learn the white code for being supreme are the smartest and most powerful people on planet Earth in 2023. Now, that's either true or false. Everybody caters to them, including all the white people who are not white supremacists, because they have figured out a formula for being the most powerful people on the planet. And they stick to that formula. They don't deviate from it. And to the extent that some of them do, their whole act falls apart. But it's an evil system of government. I didn't say that it's a good system of government, but in answer to the question, I have to interact in a begging position with those white people who believe in and who practice the system of white supremacy. Neely Fuller does it every day. I'd better do it if I want to keep breathing, because they have that kind of power. They can make me instantly dead at any time. And there's nobody I can call on that can actually save me, who is a person on planet Earth. And some other force can save me, presumably, logically speaking, but not in the force of any person. So Neely Fuller is a beggar. And I'm going to have to solve the race problem by talking to the people who I beg from every day, because I go through them.
And hold that thought right there, 14 away from the top of the hour. And of course, you need Neely Fuller's book at producejustice.com. It's got all the information about his book. I just call it the Code. That's the short name. But what is the full title before we take another call for you?
The full title is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Now, what does that United Independent mean? It means you're united, presumably, by having a code with everybody else who has a code. Same code. But we don't have one. But theoretically, you're trying to get one. And from a practical view, we're trying to build one right this minute. See? And what is a code? The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. It's a concept, just like justice is a concept, just like America is a concept, and Africa and Asia. They are not realities. America doesn't exist because it's impossible for America to exist, or Americans, American people, for example, to exist in a system of white supremacy. There are no other governments on planet Earth in 2023 other than the system of white supremacy. No American government, no African government, no Asian government. These are concepts. A concept of Asia, a concept of Africa, and a concept of Americans, for instance. And that's what these words mean, United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, meaning we need a concept. We already have the concept, rather, of how the world should be. But we haven't made that a reality. But we can use the formula for uniting, not with a person, but with logic, which is what black people have been systematically taught not to use. We just jump up and down and say that, well, we hope that everything works out all right. And we fantasize about it, but we don't actually try to, through the formula of questions and answers, solve problems. We are not famous for solving problems. We are notorious for making them. So we need, first of all, to make the concept reality through the process of questions and answers, because that fits everybody and every creature. And how do you do that? By uniting with logic. And logic is about questions and answers, getting answers to questions. No matter how many questions that it takes or how long it takes. That's the formula. There isn't any
Hold
other.
that thought right there. Yeah, because we're racing the clock, and Tyrone has a question for you. Speaking about questions, Tyrone's calling from Baltimore. Tyrone, your question real quick for Neely Fuller Jr.
Yes, in view of the Supreme Court and the Asian affirmative rights and all these other things, and Clarence Thomas and people like Tim Scott and those people of that nature, Ben Carson. My question, well, I would say that for white supremacy to be executed, there's no need for white people to even be present, in some cases. Do you agree?
The question is what?
Is in order for white supremacy to be executed, if you look at the politicians and everything.
In order for a white person to be what?
Does a white person
White supremacy.
have to be present? Does a white person have to be present?
In order for a white person to be a white supremacist.
No.
He's saying that in order for white supremacy to be effective, do they need white people? Because basically saying that we have a bunch of sellouts who do the work for them.
In order for a white supremacist to be a white supremacist?
No, sir.
In order for the concept to be successful, do we really need a physical white person when we have a bunch of sellouts in our community who do the work for them?
Well, see,
Thank you.
Well, all non-white people serve the white supremacy. Or the white supremacists let them know, you are not serving me in the way that I want to be served. So I will chastise you, people of color. I don't beg you to do anything. I order you, people of color, worldwide, 24/7, in every area of activity. I tell you what you better do, and you have so far done it.
So we as black people, what we do about people like that in power who are black? The people
There's no such thing as a black person who has power in the system of white supremacy. Not one exists.
So we should not hold our politicians accountable.
Wait a minute. What's that next question?
The next question is, should we not hold our politicians accountable that are black?
You can't hold anything. If you don't have power, you can't hold anything. Because you're not holding nothing, you ain't got nothing to hold. There's no such thing. I just said it. That's the answer, according to the code and the logic. You can't have black
anybody
people.
that challenges white supremacy, you're saying that we should not challenge white supremacy because white people control everything anyway. And I find that very. I can't personally. I can't deal with that one. But you made a lot of good points, sir, and I respect your opinion. You're very intelligent, but I can't say give up on challenging the system. No way.
Well, wait a minute. I'm trying to understand because I always say I'm still learning. Now, what black person do you know? I'll just say this. I'll try to find by asking questions. What black person do you know is more powerful than the white supremacists? Do you know any by name or any organization that are more powerful?
Hold on, Tyrone.
No, of course not. Of course not. What I'm saying is that we have different people in different levels of authority in the black community that control resources given to the black community. I'm saying that we should hold them accountable for the distribution of those resources, so that all of them.
All right, Tyrone, we're just about out of time. I want to give Neely Fuller at least 60 seconds to respond.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Fuller, can you respond to that in 60 seconds? Or we'll pick it up next time.
I thought I answered the question first time around. There's no such thing as a powerful black person. A black person doesn't have any power. A black person is a prisoner of war in 2023 if they're on this planet. Maybe on some other planet it's different. But every black person. So a black person can't sell what he doesn't own or have any power over. No black person has power over me, not after the white supremacists speak. If a white supremacist say, look, Neely Fuller is my Negro, you talk back to him, you're talking back to me. But he has no power. He's a ricochet, just like you are. See, in other words, black people try to find excuses for other black people's conduct. But
right.
No,
we're just about out of time. We'll pick it up on the next time around, Mr. Fuller. But we